news and whatnot. But my name is John with the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences. My gamer tag is Russell Up, which is why that is what's listed below. With me today is from Klei Entertainment's Jason.
Hi, how's it going?
How's it going, Jason?
It's great. It's great today.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate the time.
No, I'm very thankful that you set up stuff like this for us to do.
No, it's awesome. For anyone that doesn't know who you are and the company, I guess just beginning with you, can you give us a little bit of a background as to what you do at Klei?
Sure. I was looking for a new career, so I went into game design, and my first job I got was doing level design on. I came on to do level design for Shank 2, and then after that, I went on to do level design with Mark of the Ninja, and then after that, me and another designer, James Lance, great guy, can't talk good enough about him. We were the co-designers of Invisible Ink.
That's awesome. And for Klei, can you give a little bit of background as to what Klei is for people that don't know for any reason?
Sure, we're a small-ish indie company in Vancouver. We probably better known for Don't Starve, but we've also and I guess Mark of the Ninja too. But yeah, we made Eats and Shank and Mark of the Ninja, Invisible Ink. Now there's Don't Starve Together, which I guess is also in the Don't Starve.
That's awesome. And so, as I always say in every interview, for people just watching on the stream, please feel free to interject with questions. If there's a question that can't be answered, Jason will tell me. So, and we have the obvious questions that we will go through, but don't be surprised if we can't answer them for any reason. I guess a little bit more background about you, just out of curiosity. I saw in your background that you started out as a high school teacher. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
So I was a website designer in Vancouver for about 6 years, and then I moved to Japan. I was in Japan, so I wasn't a high school teacher, but I taught high school students. I taught all ages in Japan for about 6 years, and then it was time to come home and be a family member again, or be a member of my family. So that's when I decided I needed a new career, and I made games as a hobby, and I thought I'd try and make it into not a hobby.
Mm-hmm. And what attracted you to Klei in particular?
I liked the size of it, and the people working here were extremely, they had good ideas. They had really good, how do I explain it right? I liked how they talked about games. I liked the kinds of games and the reasons for why they were making the games they were making.
Awesome. And one thing I noticed about Klei, playing throughout from Shank to Invisible, is the visual style. I think is the first thing I immediately noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to ask. Obviously, that's a very distinct choice. Is there a reason why, whether it's a philosophy or, part of the gameplay, why you keep that same interesting design?
So half of the company is artists, and Jeff Agala he's like the lead artist, and he did like traditional animated. I think he did stuff on the Clone Wars, and he's just got a very good traditional animated background. Like this ninja poster here, it's sort of like, I would say, a bit of the trademark of his style, and so that goes into all of the products. Like you can see that stamp, even in Don't Starve, it's slightly different, or drastically different style than the other games, but it's that flair is there, and it's not just him. The other artists in the company also come from like traditional animated backgrounds, and they're just really good at what they do.
Yeah. Does that change a bit of how maybe game development is done compared to other companies, do you think? Or is that just the nature of what the company is like?
I can't quite say, because I haven't worked at too many other companies, so I don't know. I don't know exactly how that works, but I do know that we do try to have a distinct look with our stuff. It's like if we're during the pre-production, when different styles of art are being done for something, we're looking for the one that stands out. I guess everybody's doing that, but that is one of the thoughts that's going through the design process.
And as I have queued up right now in the background, which is Invisible Ink, another thing I'm really surprised by with Klei is that every game is very distinctive in terms of the gameplay. Is there a reason behind that as well?
uh, I think it's that we have an idea of a game we'd like to explore, and then we do our best to like boil it down and to get the experience that we're looking for. And we don't often want to go back to the same experience right away at the next game. So
Hmm.
um, the we want to try something different, so a different game comes out.
Awesome. And so we're going to play a little bit of Invisible Ink. I'm going to ask you particular questions, and I'm very
Sure,
curious about the design and some
sure.
of the flow. But I guess could you tell me a little bit about the development history of Invisible Ink? How did it come to fruition?
Yeah, the very first little just nugget, I guess, was Jamie was remembering Syndicate. It's an old DOS based game,
Hmm.
and just the idea of being uh, these spies in sort of this corporate dystopian universe. Um, we wanted to start making something with that. It could be influenced by the fact that we were also starting to get into Netrunner, the card
Mm-hmm.
game Netrunner.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of that going on at the office at the time. Um, so I began doing a pre-production of just trying out. It wasn't an isometric tactics game necessarily at the start. That was one of the things we were looking at. But we explored some card game ideas, uh, uh, couple of the different sort of hybrids of card games. But eventually, I love XCOM, so that the original XCOM. So maybe that might have helped me push towards wanting to develop the isometric tactics one further.
Mm.
And then once we decided on that, we just started boiling it again to find out what was the essence that we really wanted to explore in this isometric tactics spy game. Like, I guess in very early Invisible Ink, even into early access a bit, it was way more combat heavy.
Mm.
And even in Mark of the Ninja, we had to go through the growing pain of realizing that heavy on the combat in a stealth game kind of just sort of shoots the stealth in the foot. And so we came to that decision, that conclusion again in Invisible Ink, and then stripped out, or really toned down the combat, made it, like the one hits and things like that. And then that's when the game, you could see, oh yes, it's coming together now. That we're getting the stealth, we're getting the tactics that we were looking for, and then carried on from there.
Was this and excuse my ignorance on this, Klei's first early access game, or have you dealt with it before?
No, Don't Starve was the first early access game. I think it was one of the first-ish early access games. It was one of the early ones.
And I guess what are the big lessons you've learned from both Don't Starve and this game using early access that maybe other game developers maybe should know better of?
Huh. Uh, it's just one of the tools you have. It is in how you use it. It can go really bad if you don't prepare. So maybe one of the successes of Don't Starve's early access campaign was quite a rapid update schedule. Every 2 weeks, there was another update with some more content, and people could keep talking about it, and that was useful. In Invisible Ink, it was much harder to put out content at that rate for it. Don't Starve is very forgiving if you make some things and you can put it in the world, and now it exists in the world. But in Invisible Ink, if you can easily break the balance of the game if you just put something in. So you need to put something in and test it. And so a 2 week cycle wasn't going to work for Invisible Ink. We was more of like a 4 week cycle. I think we had a very small 2 week edition and then a larger 1 month edition. And it's hard to say if that actually, built up enough or built up as much buzz as we were hoping, because it really worked for Don't Starve. So possibly the strategy of how we were using early access for Invisible Ink wasn't the best. But we did make a lot of changes to the game through early access. So and those improved the game quite a bit. Like when we watched how, you could see how people were playing the game. By the time we were done early access, I think it was much better than when we started. So it did pay off.
And by watching the game, do you mean both in terms of live streams and just in-game analytics, or?
In-game analytics and comments on the forum. Don't Starve is quite streamable. It's like I think probably much more streamable than Invisible Ink, unless people know what's going on in Invisible Ink. Like, unless they're sort of players themselves, it's maybe a little hard to follow the action as compared to watching a game of Don't Starve for the first time. So in Don't Starve, there were a few streamers that started picking it up in early access, and it really exploded on a few, just the right streamers hit it. We didn't get that same effect with Invisible Ink. There wasn't like a streamer who sort of made it his the game that he was going to stream, and then that really made like a spike or something like that for us. It didn't quite work that way.
And is that an intentional thing that you guys maybe think of during the design of a game, or is that just something that happens just because out of luck?
It wasn't.
Yeah.
But then when we saw what happened with Don't Starve, that it's like, oh, this is a new sort of avenue you have when making a game, of getting the word out for the game. So it's now a tool that we'll look at when we're designing our how to spread the word, that kind of thing.
Cool. And going back to Invisible Ink in particular, I guess, what are some of the inspirations behind this game other than XCOM, as you mentioned before?
Yeah. So just in general theme-wise, I mean, there's Blade Runner, there's Syndicate, there's Netrunner, there's it actually had more of in an earlier art style. It was more of a gangster, like a future gangster game. It was more like what if the 40s had kept going into or the 40s to 60s had sort of kept going right into the cyberpunk era.
Yeah.
But then it came a certain point when it wasn't quite working, and so we teched it up a bit, and it still kept a bit of that. So there's still the trench coats, there's still a bit of mod fashion in some of the things, but it has become more I guess generic cyberpunk in that sense. So there was a lot of when that art was being done, there was a lot of look at like 60s movies posters and that kind of for the art. What else? Mark of the Ninja sort of was an influence or an inspiration for a bit of some of the stealth elements, particularly like one of the things we discovered for Mark of the Ninja was having very clear information to the player, very binary information of like what states you're in. So we wanted to keep that with Invisible Ink, and as being a tactics game, it helps when you have this like sort of almost perfect information, and you can make your moves, your plans more accurately.
And that was all done on purpose, both in Mark of the Ninja and in this game.
Yeah.
Very cool. It's interesting. So you mentioned some lessons you learned from Mark of the Ninja, and you worked on now both of these products. What has changed since Mark of the Ninja, since that game came out to Invisible Ink, that you noticed, both whether in terms of gameplay or in terms of distribution or engagement, I guess?
Do you mean like what design elements were changed, or?
Yeah, just in a general sense, I guess, both in terms of the gaming community at large and both just for you as a game designer or working in these games. I'm sorry.
I guess there was one big thing I've noticed. I don't know if it's a change from when we were working on Mark of the Ninja. I wasn't thinking about it during Mark of the Ninja. It was just that this idea of like the rogue-like games I always enjoyed those games, but I didn't realize it was also becoming almost mainstream game. Lots of games have come out now with that styling where the play session is shorter, but you will start it and end it many times. It's not about just like I've got to the end and I finished that game in 40 hours. Like I've played XCOM. I did play it twice. I played the original or the new XCOM. I played it twice, once when I got it and then once with the expansion, but I'm not going to keep playing it and exploring it as much as I would play like FTL. I've put way more hours into FTL, just trying out, I'll try this ship and I'll try this ship, and I'm playing the same game, but because it's shorter, you can afford to do that. And so that there's a lot more of those games out, and even when we were starting Invisible Ink, I don't think we were intentionally following that trend, but we ended up being a part of that trend, I think.
Hmm. And I'm curious too, in terms of the design of this game. It's obviously randomly generated, like you were saying, so it has some of those roguelike influences. Are there any other, I guess, genres that you wanted to explore in this game that you were able to do it or not able to do it?
Hmm.
For instance, like Hillhorn in the comments is saying, it would be great if you guys made a full blown roguelike someday, and you guys explored a little bit of it in this game.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Um, hmm.
I guess it's more of a general comment than anything. It's just
Yeah.
interesting to see some of those elements appear.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in terms of the evolution of a game, in terms of the story elements in this game as well, how much did that evolve from the beginning of early access to the release?
Well, the story of Invisible Ink, like that, like the storyline in the game, is
Mm-hmm.
probably, if when James and I were the two lead designers on this, and so maybe we didn't focus on it as much as we should have throughout the project. It was, I won't say it was a last minute thing, but it came in later.
Mm-hmm.
We were struggling with uh, the game mechanics, and we were some of the choices we made for the game mechanics were against what
Mm-hmm.
what people might think of as conventional things, like your agents can't pick up the guns.
Mm-hmm.
The guns have like one or two shots in them. It's hard to explain these things. And so once we came to making the story, we're like, okay, now we have to explain these things through the story, and that wasn't the best. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, we made a bunch of game design decisions that then we had to explain through story, and instead of going or doing them both at the same time. If they had been working in parallel, if we had been like going back and forth off each other a bit more, the story would be better. It would be more fleshed out than it is.
I see. I see. And that was different from previous games you guys worked on, like Shank or Mark of the Ninja.
So Shank was pretty straightforward. That it, like the uh, the story was easy to do. You could write a story at the beginning and have it, and then fit what you had to make the story work. It was a bit much more forgiving in that sense.
Hmm.
Mark of the Ninja was also a bit where the story started to come together more at the end, but I believe that Nels Anderson and Chris Dallin. Nels Anderson was the lead designer of Mark of the Ninja, and Chris Dallin worked closely with him to build the story into it. So they did a better job of keeping the story and the game design going along at the same rate.
Hmm. I see. I see. Sorry, everything just rebooted in the game. all, the,
Oh,
all the all the machines just rebooted, so that was a little bit of a surprise. Just curious about. I'm sure you can't remember particular missions in detail here, but for example, in this game right now in this mission, all the things rebooted.
yeah.
Those intentional designs are those just to trip up the player a little bit to kind of add in the random gameplay elements. What was the thinking behind that?
Yeah. The games, each of the levels has like when in Invisible Ink you have a set amount of time. It's listed in hours in the game, but basically it works out to a set number of missions that you're going to be able to go on before you reach the final mission. And so you're trying to choose the missions that will best set up your team for that final mission. So you have choices like going to a site that will give you some cybernetic implants,
Mm-hmm.
which you'll get them free, and they can be quite powerful, but it's sort of a random selection, so you're not sure what you're going to get. Or you could go to a nanofab fabricator site, which is like a 3D printer that just makes things out of molecules, and it'll be like a shop. So when you go there, you'll have to have a bunch of money, but you can choose what you want, so you can sort of pick what your team needs. That's where you are now. So you at each of these places, there's like sort of an objective, a thing that you want to get to and do, and we wanted to heighten the tension of like once you've got there, you've got into the place, you've found this thing, and now we wanted to like sort of add a complication that makes it a little harder or more interesting when you're on your way out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very cool. And also, I'm just curious in terms of, sorry, I'm like, what should I do with this guard? In that sense, I've been playing a lot of Metal Gear 2 this year, obviously. I get little hints of Metal Gear carrying the body around and,
Yeah,
trying to hide it from other people.
there's a when it comes to stealth, there's sort of a bunch of tropes that you they sort of they come out naturally. You're
Mm,
like, I've taken out this guard and there's this body on the ground, and uh, you want some reaction when another guard sees that. So then the next thing you want is to be able to clean up that so that you don't get the reaction of the guard. They just sort of, once you put in one mechanic and you're playing, the next mechanic adds on sort of automatically. And I guess Metal Gear is a stealth game, and even Mark of the Ninja had that. It's just one of those things that everyone's like, oh, I want to. That guard didn't react to the body. That's weird. So you fix that, and then he's like, "Oh, he reacted to the bodies. Now I need to hide it."
Totally understood. And I'm just looking at this right now, just trying to figure out my next move and plotting where I'm going to go. What stands out to me too in this game is the security measure system, along with the incognita system. With those two systems, how long did it take to kind of conceive of those into what you really wanted to do in the end? Like, did it take a long time for you? Did it just come naturally?
I won't say it came naturally. There was a lot of iterations, a lot of different things that were tried. The like hacking layer, there was a hacking layer early on, but it was there was a bunch of different ones. There was ones where, excuse me, each computer console was like very distinctly connected to another piece of security. So if there was a laser in your way, you had to find the console that would activate the laser. But stuff like that would put a lot of like constraints on the generate, like the procedural generation. So the system we came to was like, okay, the computers they're detached from the security systems, and they give you a resource which you use to affect the systems. And then I probably just our playing of Netrunner led us to the next level of like, okay, well now we'll have a suite of programs that spend those points in differing efficiencies.
Hmm.
So as that just sort of makes a particular build, like this build only requires a little bit of power to affect the world in this way, or this one can affect it very strongly in this way, but it requires lots of power. So that system sort of came out naturally from us maybe playing in Netrunner, and then from the needs of the game. The alarm system, so you were mentioning that one as well. I think the security system.
Yeah.
That one came up because there was a lack of tension, and in roguelikes, there's this idea of food that is always going down. It's always a pressure to keep you moving forward, and so we started trying with this alarm system as being our roguelike food, and it went through quite a few iterations as well, and but eventually it came to this one.
I see. Ooh. I've never seen. How far does the alarm system go, by the way? Out of curiosity.
It goes up to 6.
Okay. And at 6, does it become almost impossible to beat, or is it just a challenge?
No, it's not impossible to beat. But it's certainly you don't want to be there if you can avoid it.
I see. That's cool. Also, in terms of, I guess, the hero characters, the International, the Decker, all these characters, just out of curiosity too, how did the names come about? How did the designs come about?
We have a Kevin. He was the we have an employee named Kevin. Kevin was one of the lead designers of Don't Starve. He's a good writer, and so when we had a bunch of names for these characters, but they were a little more generic than they should have been, and he took a pass on them, and International was born, and I was like, hey, that's a really great name, and he became the name guy from there.
Interesting. Very cool. I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth since I'm trying to boggle my mind around what to do next year.
I find this game, on streams, I suck at this game because playing it and talking about something else, you just make bad moves.
Yeah, and especially in this game where every move counts so delicately, it's tough. And talking about movement as well, looking at the rewind feature, I noticed that there are very limited rewinds. You know, you can't just
Right.
drag your character back and get all the movement points or AP back. How come? What was that the decision behind that?
So after lots of playtesting with people in the office, like we had people come in and we'd watch them play and things. The we like to try and make games that don't need like a heavy tutorial. That's like I guess the ideal way. It doesn't always work, but this game, people were struggling in that it's not as forgiving in exploration. In like, let's see what this does. And Don't Starve, it's a little different. You can like explore and find out how things work and interact with each other through playing the game. Whereas people playing this game would want to know the results of something before they did it, so they were less inclined to experiment. So we needed to give them a bit of a means to feel okay about experimenting or trying different things and not worry that it's like they're just going to end the game or that they're doing something wrong. So also save scumming. We knew that it's very, it's quite possible to use save scumming with this game even without a save feature. You can edit files and things like that. So we decided to like this is really pretty much build the save scumming into the game, but in like a controlled form. So like you just can't infinitely do it, but it's not cheating to use the rewind button. So people who are against save scumming don't mind using the rewind button because it's part of the game. We've made it for them.
I see. That's cool. How much I guess I'm trying to think here, like difficulty, and you talk about a lot of analytics and stuff like that. What do you look for in particular in terms of changing specific things? Like if you guys committed to the incognita system, what would you really have to see to make a change? Like would people have to really struggle with it in terms of analytics or on the forums, like a big majority of people?
All of it, I guess. If we were I mean the when you're bringing the people into the office and watching them play, you're going to get like the immediate, like the big problems that are going to stop everyone. You're going to see those, and then you're going to see the next level of them on the forums, like the people who have been playing the game quite a bit, and they're past that. Like these are the things that are just cutting people off who have never seen the game before. Now they're like, oh, these are the things that frustrate me after I've played the game for 10 hours, and so. I think that you use all of those things, and the metrics will find another variety of things that those other two things don't find. They'll find things that like, oh, 10,000 people are doing this thing, and that this like small group of people are doing this thing or something like that. Now we would have never seen this small group in just our testing of people coming in, or even on the forums necessarily.
See. Has that obviously things have changed with the advent of social media and all these things. For Klei itself, do you guys take how do you engage your fans, and how do you engage the people that play your games? Is it just through the forums? Is it just through social media? I know you guys have a live stream, you guys said, right?
Yeah. We on Thursdays we have the Rhymes with Play live stream, so that's one of them, I guess. That I know James is a very big proponent of streams and Twitch, so we've been doing that. I know that Jamie is on Twitter, and Corey I think is on Twitter. Most people I think are at least a little bit on Twitter in the office, and the forum is probably our biggest, but also on Steam. We do visit Steam a lot.
You guys are a small team as well. Like, do you mind me asking how big Klei is as a whole at the moment?
Yeah, I think the numbers just fluctuate a bit. I think we might be around 50. Sometimes the number 30 is in my head, but I think we've grown a little bit, and so could be between 30 and 50. But they're broken up into smaller projects. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 projects going on right now. So it's about teams of 10-ish.
And what are some of the advantages and maybe some of the challenges that you face with those kind of teams?
As small teams, everybody has to be involved in like and be able to do a little bit of other fields. So we don't just have designers. We're all technical designers, so we all have the ability to, if we come up with an idea of something to like a feature or a system for the game, it's up to us to put it in and test it, to get the shell of it in and running to see if that system is going to work for us. I mean, of course, we also have programmers who are might be better than the programmer designers, but we do have the ability to let them work on like the real hard stuff that they're doing, and we can put in our system that we want to test out. So everyone, I mean, even in a big team, you need to stay in communication. But in a small team, you need to make sure that all the stuff's being done. So everyone has to jump up to do those things.
Cool. And going back to you personally, just a few more questions before we wrap it up. In terms of your inspirations, in terms of what maybe you played as a kid or what you've been inspired as a kid, what are some of those things, whether it's in games or just in media in general?
I have been XCOM. It's almost, I guess it's kind of cliche now, but probably my favorite game for years and years was the original XCOM. I think the fact that it had like two parts to it that were both like extremely good games, but they were both in one game was sort of surprising to me. And then I just love the movie Aliens and things. So that was a big influence for me. I mean, I grew up with Macross on TV, so the anime and Robotech and Mecha and that kind of stuff's been a big influence on me, although less in the future years, I guess, or my later years now. I'm back into the idea of the roguelike games, like I was mentioning earlier before, where I like the short game experience, but like I'll play it over and over, and each one's kind of a little different, and I can use my knowledge from the other ones to help me in this experience, but it doesn't. I'm not just going through rote memory, that kind of thing. So those old roguelike games now coming back, that's a cool thing for me.
Cool. And as someone working in the game industry, so hardcore in games, is it difficult for you to play games in general, like for fun or for leisure?
Sadly, I'd say yeah. I'd say that I don't play as many games now. I mean, I've got more responsibilities and stuff now anyway, so maybe that's just a natural thing. But I do find it harder to find those games that I'm just like, man, that was an awesome, really, really good game. And that's not necessarily that there aren't more good games. I just I'm more picky now.
Yeah. And would you say the pickiness comes with, like you were saying, some of the nostalgia that you have for roguelikes and specific games that you hear about?
There are so many games now. I mean, there was lots of games. I used to know lots of obscure games, and I had this like weird pride in the fact that I knew lots of obscure games. But now there's people who know obscure games. They're out now. I can't keep up. There's too many now.
And I guess my last two questions for you. One is for someone aspiring to be where you're at now, what would you suggest to them in terms of making games or being part of a gaming team like Klei?
Sure. If you're not working at a game design studio and you'd like to, it's very, very easy nowadays to do stuff at home. There's so many different, like, I mean, Unity is pretty great for just making stuff at home, and there's even Flash if you want to do that. There's like Love 2D, a bunch of like the smaller like Lua based game engines and stuff. So you should really just start making games at home. Do as much exploration and ask yourself when you're doing it, like, why am I putting this system into the game? Was it because this game I liked had it? And if that's the case, why did they put it in? So always, why is this system in the game? What experience is it adding to my game? And then another thing is I used to design games at home and it was more about just putting mechanics together. But now I know that better games come out of like, this is the experience I want. What mechanics can I put on this game that will bring out that experience, make that experience the top of this game? And if this mechanic is fun, but it's not like enhancing this experience, then maybe I'm wasting my time with that, and I should be putting in another system that will enhance this experience. And if you do that, then people will have that experience and they'll remember your game for that.
That's awesome.
Probably not because of this one mechanic that you put in the game.
I see. And would you say, like, for Mark of the Ninja, like, people always praise the stealth system in that game? Would you say that's kind of an example of a system that you put in that, you know, people admire, and something that you created on your own, or your team?
I would say that Nels and Jamie, Jamie's the head of Klei, those two together, lots of people in the office helped out, but those two together really boiled that what is stealth, what is the actual good experience of stealth. That when you talk to people about stealth and a lot of things, it's like they like that idea of like watching a guard and like figuring out what he's going to do and then executing a plan. But when you actually put that into practice, it's boring, and that you're having to wait a long time to see something. And people don't really have the patience for that when they're actually playing. And then if they try it and it screws up and they have to redo the whole thing, and so now they have to, you know, like observe again. It's not actually what they want out of stealth. So watching people and observing that, I think they did a good job of boiling what was the part of the stealth that people really want, minus the stuff that they think maybe they want, but when they're actually playing it, it bores them. So they did a good job of boiling that down, I think.
I see. And then my final question to you, I guess, is, you know, I'm sure you can't tell me what game you're working on right now, or maybe you can.
I've been working on the DLC for Invisible Ink.
Awesome. I guess other than Invisible Ink, is there a dream game you would like to be working on, whether it's in terms of a genre or a specific?
I used to have a bunch of those. I think the one of the last ones that I still somehow would like to exist. I don't know if I would want to work on it, but I would like an MMO, like post-apocalyptic car game. Basically, take Car Wars, top down. Looks like Grand Theft Auto 1. You drive around in this MMO world, gathering resources. All the resources are like in a petri dish, so everything is accounted for. If you collect some bits and parts off a car, those bits and parts came from a factory somewhere that some people were running, so that the whole economy is all working. That would be that'd be a dream game for me.
That's intense. I'm very curious to see that.
Yeah.
Very cool. So yeah, I don't know. Unless you want to have something to say to the fans watching, or any other comments you wanted to just generally make.
The fans we have for Klei are amazing. I'm always humbled by lots of the comments that we get, and I'm really thankful for them. Thank you for having me on the show for talk about stuff.
Yeah. No, thanks, Jason. I know we went through a mishmash of things here, but I think it was really fascinating, and I think the game is really fascinating. Just to tell everyone, where can you get Invisible Ink? How much is it right now?
How much is it right now? It's on Steam. It's on GOG. And there's a Humble widget, I think. So you can get it in those 3 locations, and I think it's $16.99, or it's not more than $20.
Okay, sounds great. So we'll put the link in our YouTube video. Again, this archive will be on YouTube afterwards. Just check out our Twitter page or Klei's Twitter page afterwards. And again, Jason, thank you so much for being with us here.
Thank you.
And everyone will be back next week, and we'll let you know who it's going to be soon. So until then, take care and game on. Thank you, guys.